Hello, this is CJ Radoon of RotoWire.com here for your Formula One update on mystery caution. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our motorsports videos all season long, and that includes NASCAR, IndyCar, and of course Formula One. And you can access any of my columns by clicking the link provided in the description of this video. And if you have any questions or comments, as always, feel free to let me know what is on your mind. So this week coming up, we are getting ready for the Formula One STC Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. But as always, now that the season's underway, we've got to look back at what happened last time out. And last time out, we were in Bahrain. And guess what? Lo and behold, so surprising. Exactly as predicted, Max Verstappen and Red Bull were the ones to beat in the opening round of the 2024 season. We talked about that last time we were together, and absolutely no surprises whatsoever. Verstappen came out, he qualified on pole, he led every lap, he ran the fastest lap, and he won the race. And that's pretty much all there is to be said about that. So looking further back in the order, making things even better for Red Bull last week was the fact that Sergio Perez seems to maybe be living up to the expectation of finishing second to his championship winning teammate, Max Verstappen. He had a pretty decent race, albeit 22 seconds adrift of Verstappen, so that tells you something. But nonetheless, Perez was there, and that is exactly where he should be finishing, given the fact that he is also driving a Red Bull car, just as his teammate is. We would expect, given the strength of that team and that car, that both Verstappen and Perez should arguably be finishing first and second every single time out. That wasn't the case last year. Perez seemed to have some struggles throughout the season, but he got off on the right foot here in this first round in Bahrain. So continuing exactly as predicted, Ferrari was second best. Testing, even though it was limited, gave us a pretty good insight into where they were going to finish. And the only question I think we really had outstanding was exactly how far they were going to be behind Red Bull. We knew Red Bull was going to be the top. We knew Verstappen was going to be the top. But it looked like Ferrari closed the gap. And in qualifying for Bahrain, it certainly looked like they had a chance. They were in for a shot with the pole with Leclerc. He ended up just losing out. Unfortunately, for him, a persistent locking front tire ended up holding him back in the actual race's finishing order. Instead, it was teammate Carlos Sainz that got past and went on to lead the Ferrari 3-4 finish, finishing third and fourth, but it was Sainz that took the podium spot. So for those of you who listened to me last week and said it was kind of a coin flip between Leclerc and Sainz, but to go with Ferrari and probably for a podium, I think you guys made out pretty well. So where was Mercedes? Well, they had an interesting outing. Lewis Hamilton largely struggled. George Russell, though, he did step up to fill his shoes. So this is actually arguably one of the most interesting pieces out of Bahrain and that first race of the season. So we know, larger picture, this is Hamilton's last season with Mercedes. He's going to be going on to Ferrari. I asked, how much of backing are Mercedes now going to give him, knowing that they're going to a rival versus his teammate Russell. And maybe we're starting to see that a little bit. So Russell beat Hamilton both in qualifying and the race. That's actually pretty rare for Russell to do, though Russell does have his moments. Hamilton's usually right there with him. But as Mercedes begin to focus on Russell for the future and throughout the rest of the season, knowing that Hamilton is going to Ferrari next season, I think we should all expect Russell to have more chances to outperform exactly like he did last week at Bahrain. So that's definitely a story that we're going to kind of watch here throughout the season. How about that midfield fight? Again, just as predicted, McLaren and Aston Martin, they appear to be heading that list. They look pretty even. McLaren had their struggles. Aston Martin had their struggles in the race as well. But as predicted as well, both Haas and Sauber definitely seem to have taken some steps forward. Those cars certainly are fast. They have a little bit of work to do. We'll want to see how they develop over the season. But that midfield fight, certainly, as that evolution happens, as that car development continues throughout the races, especially after they get to the European portion of the season, I think we're really going to see that midfield battle take shape. But for right now, you're going to want to be looking, if you're looking at the midfield fight, you're going to be looking at Lando Norris in McLaren and Fernando Alonso at Aston Martin. So what was the biggest surprise? Honestly, the biggest surprise to me was how spot on the predictions were coming from just a couple of testing days. It feels like we got just about everything right uh, as it played out in Bahrain. So the pecking order to start the season is exactly as predicted. It just goes to show how, unfortunately, predictable Formula One's become and where it needs to improve in order to keep attracting attention and growing its fan base. So, knowing that last week was highly predictable, what can we expect this week as we go to Saudi Arabia? So we do stay in the Middle East. Obviously, we were in Bahrain last week. We're here at Saudi Arabia for the STC Saudi Arabian Grand Prix this week. The Jeddah Street Circuit is a fast track. But it's got a ton of turns, 27 turns. It's just crazy. There are no real straightaways. Every single straight seems to have some kind of slight bend to it, a lot of blind corners. And quite honestly, the biggest chances for action really just lies at turn 27, which is that last turn. It's a tight turn. It has DRS zones leading into it and out of it. You'll remember if you're watching a couple of years ago, it was a cat and mouse game. It often turns into a cat and mouse game, usually Verstappen and somebody else. The most famous one was Verstappen versus Hamilton there. But long story short, qualifying is a big advantage at this track. Despite the fact that we've been racing there since 2021, and there have been 3 different winners, those are Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen, and Sergio Perez. 2 of those races were won from pole, and Verstappen's win came from 4th. So Verstappen, a little bit of a unique case there, but really the winner typically starts right at the front. So qualifying, big advantage this week. If you're going to, the odds are going to change. They're going to change after qualifying because of how important qualifying is to the outcome of this race. So if you're going to take Verstappen, if you're going to take Perez, I would not recommend choosing Leclerc or Sainz, to be honest with you. I would go again with the team since Leclerc and Sainz are so evenly matched and kind of unpredictable. If you're going to go with somebody other than Red Bull, take the Ferrari as a team. But again, Verstappen's going to be the easy choice. If you're going to want your upset winner, it's going to be Perez, I think, this week. So definitely want to get those in order to get the odds that you see on the screen now, because they will absolutely change after qualifying depending upon what happens. So fans should also remember, Verstappen qualified 15th last year. He salvaged a second place finish, though. It was 5 seconds behind Perez. So again, while Verstappen is able to claw his way through the field, he's going to have to qualify well in order to do so. If he has another slip up like he had last year, it's going to be all Perez all day. So from a driver perspective, you're going to want to go with Perez alternative to Verstappen. Verstappen's obviously the top choice. If you're looking for a constructor, certainly top choice, Red Bull. Yet again, I think Verstappen and Perez are going to dominate this race. If you're wanting an upset there or maybe a podium finish for another team, though, Ferrari is going to be your choice. And then finally, based on what we saw last week as well, given that Red Bull is still head and shoulders above the competition on the prop side from a winning margin, you're going to want to go with the over 10 seconds. If for some reason we see something come really crazy out of qualifying, something unpredictable out of qualifying at the front of the field, you might want to think about the under 5 seconds, but otherwise your safe bet here is going to be the over 10 seconds play. So interesting. Look forward to qualifying. That said, not a lot of action happening on the track, very predictable. So what are the storylines that we're following this weekend? It seems like they are all off track, actually. First and foremost, we've been talking about the Christian Horner Red Bull saga. So we all know Christian Horner investigated by Red Bull for improper controlling behavior. We still don't know the details. Those things are starting to leak out. You know, rumors are rumors. It's very tabloid-esque. So be careful what you read. Be careful what you think is or what you deem to be true. Find reliable sources. The fact of the matter is we really don't know, but there remains to be a lot of speculation about Christian Horner's future with Red Bull. And in fact, after Bahrain, it does seem to be wrapping up Max Verstappen in it as well. There was a video of Jos Verstappen, Max Verstappen's dad, having words with Christian Horner. There are allegations of Verstappen Sr. Being upset with Horner. A whole lot of off-track infighting that is a very big distraction to that whole story, that is ultimately leading people to speculate that Horner may be gone from Red Bull, and even Verstappen might be gone from Red Bull. Remember, with Hamilton moving over to Ferrari, that knocks Sainz out of the Ferrari spot, but that leaves a spot at Mercedes. So some of the speculation might be that if Red Bull, Christian Horner, that saga can't be amicably resolved, it may be that Verstappen ends up going somewhere else. And the speculation right now would be that Mercedes would be that obvious choice for him. So that's one story that we are following. The second tabloid-esque story that we are following involves the FIA president Ben Sulayem. He's accused now of 2 instances in the past week of interfering with Formula One, which is crazy. You can't have somebody from the FIA, the governing body, interfering in the sports and the outcome of a sport. So the allegations are very, very hot, to say the least. The first one was that he wanted to overturn a penalty given to Fernando Alonso at this track, Saudi Arabia, last year. You can't do that. You know, the stewards and the rule book has to be followed. A new accusation just came out a couple of days ago as well, that he actually wanted officials not to certify the Las Vegas track ahead of last year's debut on the calendar. Rumors, you know, if you read into that, rumors suggest that he's trying to get more money from Formula One, which is obviously a very lucrative sport, and direct that to the FIA. So maybe he wants a better deal. Maybe he's positioning for contract status, etc. But regardless, a lot of infighting, not just at Red Bull and one of the teams in Formula One, but apparently also the FIA and the management of Formula One as well. So this is another one to keep a very close eye on as we move forward. Third one, again, off track. Talked about it last week, heading into the very predictable season opener, and this prediction unfortunately came true for Alpine as well. That team is just behind. They played down expectations at the launch of their car. They know they have work to do. As a result of that, after their poor performance last week with finishes of 17th and 18th, 2 people on their design team resigned. That includes technical director Matt Harmon and their head of aerodynamics. So Alpine is definitely on the back foot, and the shuffle in the background suggests that even a longer anticipated turnaround for the development of that car. I'm not sure how you can make progress throughout the season when 2 of your major design positions resign after the first week of competition. You got a long season to go, but boy, Alpine definitely floundering right out of the gate, and that is not good news. So from both a wagering as well as a fantasy perspective, I recommend you continue to stay away from Alpine. So again, to recap, Bahrain, very predictable. All of our predictions came true. Hopefully the same comes true for Saudi Arabia as well. Hopefully we get a little bit of excitement though. But to recap, Max Verstappen, Red Bull, going to be your choice for winners. If you want the alternative for a winner in a race driver, this week you're going to want to go for Sergio Perez. If you're going to want to go for an alternative to Red Bull in the constructor side, you want to go with Ferrari as a constructor. Don't let yourself get sucked into trying to choose between Leclerc and Sainz. Those odds are going to change after qualifying. So if you've got an early hunch, make sure you get on it now. Otherwise, go with what you see in qualifying, because qualifying really is the determinant factor at this track. And then lastly, if you don't see something change or something really crazy in qualifying, go for that winning margin over 10 seconds. If you do see something change or something weird at the front after qualifying, you're going to want to go for that under 5-second play. So that is it. I hope we have a more exciting Saudi Arabia STC Grand Prix this week at the Jeddah Street Circuit. Again, I am CJ Radun of rotowire.com, here for Mystery Caution. And remember to subscribe. You won't miss any of our motorsports videos all season long. That includes NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula One. We got IndyCar here starting shortly. And as always, you can access my columns in the link in the description of the video. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know what is on your mind. I'll address them on the show. And until next time, keep it out of the fence.